I recognize my very good friend from Arkansas, Mr. Womack, for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and prayers for the Cole, Oklahoma region, devastated by a tornado last night. Mr. Secretary, I too want to kind of put my name on the same question that came up earlier about the discretionary grant applications and the tremendous cost. Small communities that just don't have the resources that bigger communities have. Just no response necessary, but just hear it from us. We have the same concerns that was voiced earlier. As much as $170,000 or hundreds of man hours engaged in outside consulting firms to be able to demonstrate qualification for these projects, and we want the department to be aware of that. I have an FTA, Federal Transit Administration issue, requesting the ability to use urbanized area formula and additional fixed highway trust funds for large transit agency operating expense shortfalls. Essentially requesting the ability to use federal funds to cover ridership shortfalls. And we know that this happened during the pandemic, but now coming out of the pandemic, we need to get away from the pandemic mindset, as I call it. Even as the President acknowledges that the public health emergency is over. According to the American Public Transportation Association, subway and commuter rail ridership was 62% of pre-pandemic levels in Q4 of 2022. And I don't think anybody with a straight face can project that ridership is going to reach pre-pandemic levels. And don't take it from me, but in November of last year, heads of 15 of the largest transit agencies sent a letter to you acknowledging that ridership would not return to pre-pandemic levels. So this begs the question, will this temporary assistance become another federal entitlement? Congress didn't intend urbanized area formula funds to be used for operating expenses. It was not an oversight. It's recognition that a transit agency should rely on ridership to fund their operations, which I personally think is a reasonable requirement. Frankly, many of my constituents in Arkansas think that way too much money goes to the big city transit agencies, and this proposal would only increase that amount. So, Mr. Secretary, if Congress granted you this authority, how would you ensure that this is a temporary program?
We do want to make sure that cities and states recognize that we still expect them to make appropriate investments in transit. We also know that transit yields major economic benefits. For every dollar invested in transit, there's about $5 of economic growth that come with it. And many transit agencies have continued to face fiscal issues, which we think are acute and we believe are not permanent, but are not resolving just in a year or two as post-COVID commuting patterns continue to evolve in the country. The main thing I'd emphasize here is that this is a form of flexibility, not a requirement from us. So we're trying to make sure that the transit agencies have what they need to head off any kind of fiscal cliff that could leave commuters high and dry, and at the same time are not viewing this as anything short of a measure to help bridge through that period. And of course, with this or anything else we do are going to make sure we're staying within the lines of the law as written.
Okay. Last question is about the contract tower program. I have 4 airports in my district that use this very successful public-private partnership, and I believe it enhances aviation safety. I think it's well documented. It's effective. It's cost-effective. Contract towers handle about 29% of all U.S. tower operations, but about 10% of the overall budget. So I think it's a pretty good bang for the buck. I'm concerned about how the changes proposed in the FAA's recent market survey announcement for the contract tower program will affect aviation safety and program costs. I'm worried that we're introducing unnecessary risk into this successful program at a time when we're seeing historic air traffic control staffing shortages. So, Mr. Secretary, can you, in the remaining time, 40 seconds we have, can you help me understand how you will evaluate the risk of fundamentally changing the contract tower program versus any projected cost savings?
Well, to be clear, we are calling for a budget request that will fully fund all towers participating in the program, $194 million, in addition to putting to use the $20 million provided for airport-owned federal contract towers to be able to make improvements or changes that need to happen there. These are subject to benefit cost calculations, but we also recognize the unique situations and distortions that have occurred across the aviation sector in recent years. And anything that we seek to do moving forward will be in the spirit of refining and improving the program, but in a way that we want to make sure works for the airports and the communities concerned.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your service to our country, and as a former mayor, you get a lot of these issues that we're
Indeed.
broaching with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.